Hello and how are you toy sports lovers out there? My name is Robbie Gillette and welcome to conversation number 32 of the Keeping It Real with Robbie podcast, where we chat all things on the mental side of sport, to stories, laughs and banter. Whether you're into the old pigskin or the old leather ball, we've got you. Today I'm joined by rugby ref Amy Barrett-Turon, an individual who has broken barriers, not only in the women's game, by attending the Olympics, a World Cup and becoming Marty's first Springbok woman, but also in the men's game as she makes her debut this weekend in the United Rugby Championship, becoming the first woman to do so. The story is so inspiring. I hope you guys enjoy, and as always, let me know what you guys think. And what a stunning day it is to spend 45 minutes in front of the computer speaking on Zoom. Amy, I'm sure that's not the first thing that comes to your mind on a day like this in Cape Town. But thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, such a pleasure, Robbie. It's always great to chat. Share my story.
No, I'm so excited because, I obviously did a little bit of research into you and did my digging. And one word that came to mind was super inspiring. Oh, that's two words, but one word was inspiring. And I can't wait to journey through that with you throughout this chat. And I'm sure people at home will learn a lot. So thank you so much. Before we get into it, you mentioned that you had a physio appointment now at 2. Is everything all right? How's the body?
Yeah, happy, healthy. We're on a nice, tough training program, so just a little touch up.
Okay.
Hoping for some big games coming up. So, it's just nice to make sure the body's ready, because that's what we use on the field, and it's there's no what's the word? There's no excuses really. It's 80 minutes of madness, so you've got to be on top form.
Do you guys have a set like schedule for fitness and your body, like to keep it ready?
Yeah, we have a proper program that they put us on. I'm probably fitter now as a referee than I ever was as a player. Maybe not as strong, but definitely. Just because it's in the men's game, I have to reach the men's standards.
Okay.
So loads of running, loads of gym work, footwork, all those things like that, because as soon as your body starts to shut down, your mind does as well. So we need that part of us. So it's quite tough. We pretty much do a 6-day-a-week training session, and then obviously just cut the one if there's a match on the Saturday.
That's so crazy. Actually, I had no idea it was that. But it all makes sense. It's like when you're tired, you don't think you'll. That's crazy. I hadn't thought of that. Before we get into your journey, which is something I'm really excited about, I'm going to play a game of 8 questions with you, not necessarily related to your career or reffing, but just some icebreaker questions. The first one is, what city means the most to you in the world?
It has to be Cape Town, when you travel so much, it's just wonderful to get to come home, and it makes you realize how much you appreciate our wonderful country.
Yeah. And the second one is, who was your childhood idol?
I'd have to go with Andre Joubert. I'm a big fan of the World Cup rugby game, and he was definitely one of my favorite players.
Okay, cool. And what item in your home do you treasure the most?
Am I allowed to say my wife?
Absolutely. I think that's the right answer.
It's actually our wedding anniversary tomorrow, so
no ways. Congrats.
You get that in there. Yeah, thank you.
Let's go. What's the best piece of advice you've ever been given?
I remember in high school, and they said, we're talking about careers and things like that, and said, choose something you love and you'll never work a day in your life. And that's something that I really stuck with, just because sport is a tough world to be in as far as a career. And it worked out, and I'm glad I stuck with it.
No, awesome. And what's one day in your career that you would love to relive?
It has to be running out in the Rio Olympics, running out into that full stadium, finally reaching a dream that I'd been dreaming of since I was 11, 12 years old.
That's crazy. What job would you be terrible at?
Anything stuck in an office, stuck behind a computer screen. If I can group it into all of those. I'd love to be active.
Yeah.
My second job as a biokineticist, so I'm active in that as well.
Yeah. And what superpower would you like to have?
It has to be flying,
I said the same. But then I also said,
an amazing feeling.
I'd also be too scared to actually fly. Imagine like you can fly, but then you got to jump off a building. It's like maybe not. Maybe we keep it like a meter above the ground, something like that.
Yeah, that'll be all right.
Yeah. What skill would you most love to master?
At the moment, I picked up a little bit of golf, and I'm really trying to get better at that.
Okay, yeah, that's quite a tough one to get good at.
Yeah, but a nice breakaway and a nice way to enjoy Cape Town and enjoy have a little bit of a break from rugby. As much as I love the game, it's important to get away as well.
Yes, yeah, no, totally. Let's get into your journey, but also before we get into like the meat of it, can you give the listeners and viewers a kind of description of how you describe yourself and how Amy describes herself to people?
I always find that interesting to talk about myself, but I've realized this is what people are interested in, and I think I'd probably go as just a quiet rugby referee who gets on and does a job, and I love to be active, and just keep it simple. Hey, I don't know, like this. I choose, as much as my job can be in the limelight, sometimes I'm quite happy to fly under the radar and just get my own thing,
Yeah, no, totally. So I think for you, because it's such an interesting journey and a story, let's start at the beginning with your childhood. How do you reflect on your childhood? And I suppose where did you grow up? Where was home for you?
So I grew up in Durban.
Okay.
And I was always a pretty shy kid. So luckily for me, we had sport. And that was my happy place where I could be more social, be more myself, kind of come into my own. So I was very lucky that I could play. I went to some really supportive schools that I could play a lot of sport. Never wrote off the academics. I always do enjoy that side of it as well. But I knew that was my passion. And I think growing up, I always. I probably go with the thing that I'm stubbornly determined, and that's some people just say stubborn, and I say determined. So I've learned to like put it together. So it's a bit of a compromise from both. That I've always like, if I'm sort of doing something, I'm going to do that, and I'm going to try and get better every day, and that's just something I've stuck with. I think I have a twin brother, and I think it's always, you always want to be unique. You want to be yourself. You want to take on your own journey. And I think, it was just important for me that I picked some goals in life and went for them. I think always very supportive parents. My mom is my biggest supporter, but she's not a huge fan of me running around the field with 30 big men. I think my childhood definitely shaped where I am today, because I think you've got to be resilient. You've got to decide what you want. You've got to follow your own path and things like that.
And stubbornly determined, how does that integrate with your reffing? And how does that how do you marry the two between getting, say, criticism? If you do your reviews, you get criticism, you get a few things wrong. How does that affect, because of stubbornly determined, how does that kind of, fit in with your reffing?
Yeah, I think being a female in a male-dominated world, you have to be stubbornly determined, because you get a lot of obstacles along the way, a lot of judgment, a lot of doubt and things like that. And I just chose to be let it be my own journey. And hey, I want to be a rugby referee. I was a player, and I want to be a referee, and completely understand it's a male-dominated world. I'm not upset with that, but now I'm determined to make it as far as I can. It's very tough being a referee when people criticize, and it's something that probably never leave the game. So what I learned quite early on, this is a statement. It was just, what other people think of you is none of your business. And I think that was the biggest thing that changed me as I got into the higher panels. In the beginning, it was really offensive what everyone said. But if you listen to everything everyone said, you would almost never get out of bed in the morning, because it can be so demoralizing. And I just learned to shift that and use it as a motivational factor, but then also shift it and not even think about it. If it's about me when I walk on the field, and then when I walk off the field, it's about me. Like, how do I feel? What could I have done better? Okay, cool. Yeah, that was tough. Okay, let me try improve on that. Always keep learning from each game. So it's more like an individual kind of self-awareness thing, rather than listening to everyone else's criticism. So yeah, sometimes we can be our own harshest critics sometimes. But I've learned, like, it's only a game, eh? it's it's rugby. And as much as I'm a professional referee, and there are jobs on the line, and players and coaches and sponsors and things like that, I think there's a culture in rugby, or just I don't know what the word is, but an authenticity in rugby that I think if we go too overboard with all of the other nonsense and forget about the actual game, we just lose everything about it.
Did you do you notice that criticism? And is there a lot more of criticism that you notice towards you because you're a woman in a male-dominated space? And do you notice that you get a bit more of that criticism compared to your male peers or colleagues?
I think, I think when I first started, pitching up at the club games in Cape Town, and you walk from your car to the change room and you've been watched the whole way. People think you're deaf. You can be like 3 meters from someone. They're like, oh my gosh, it's a female referee. I was like,
yeah.
I can hear you, So yeah, there's definitely some challenging times. But it's gotten, I want to say it's gotten easier in a way. It'll always be part of the game. But I think criticism, it's always going to be there. So it's just what you do with it, and you make a mistake and you park it and you keep going and you learn from it the next time.
To be someone who's taken that criticism, you must have an insane love for the game to carry on, especially I've been to maybe 1 or 2 club games in Cape Town, and it's brutal. It's like a different gravy. It's like it's so it's unforgiving, and it's tough. Where did that rugby love ignite? And it's obviously a deep burning love, because I mean, as you've carried on for so long, and now you're at the top.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head. I just love rugby. I think as South Africans, rugby is almost like a culture. And I think some of my first memories are growing up watching the Currie Cup on a Saturday afternoon, and that was just something we did, and I enjoyed every game regardless of who was playing. And I just knew that was a sport for me, and I played a whole bunch of other sports, but rugby's kind of always been in the background. And just with women's opportunities, I played a bit of touch rugby to start to develop my skills until I could play the full contact. And as soon as I got onto the field, it was just, and then just, it's such a unique game. There's so much magic around it that in comparison to other sports, and with all due respect to other sports, I feel like there's not many sports where you put your body on the line for your teammates in such a way. And it's such a mental challenge, a physical challenge, an emotional challenge. It's amazing to be a part of. And I think, I hope that it'll continue to be a part of my life.
Do you think the game's going to grow a lot more, especially now that the women's game is getting more coverage? Do you think that because there's extra viewership televised games, do you think it's going to grow? Do you think it has a potential to reach like an American football or soccer?
Yeah, I think there's been massive strides, and I know there's a lot of work behind the scenes that I'm involved in how do we grow the game. It's from a club level, provincial level, into the national setup. So I think especially with the women's Premier Division being shown on TV, some of the curtain raise for the men, sometimes just on their own. There's a lot more social media buzz about it. Setting up into the Women's World Cup next year, I think a lot of people will take notice, and I hope they do. I know when I was playing a good while ago, it was you still get a reaction at the airport. Oh, do we have a women's rugby team? And you'd be standing in your green and gold blazer, or something like that. So it's certainly kind of onwards and upwards at the moment. And there's a couple of players that I've been. I know there's one recently, Zintle, who's going overseas to England. She's got a contract with Exeter in England.
Yes, I saw that. Yeah.
So it's just the more other women see all these opportunities, the bigger it's going to grow. So yeah, I hope that more people can take it on board and see that it's actually. You don't want to compare it to the men's game. I think women's rugby is unique in its own way, and it's an awesome spectacle to watch.
Yeah, I also think now that it's been shown on TV, I think a lot more younger girls would want to get involved, because like now it's on TV. It's like it's getting the same viewership as like a men's game, which is awesome. But I wanted to ask, where was your first rugby memory? What kind of memories stand out to you in terms of the first ones in your childhood?
There would be a good bit of touch rugby. So I played at national level at a young age. We played the World Cup. We went over to Australia for that, and I was like, "Oh, this is wonderful." And then I think my first, in the early stages when I first started playing, I started playing club rugby. I hadn't told my mom because I knew she wouldn't be too happy with that. And I remember playing my first game and getting tackled for the first time and getting up and be like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. And this is just a club game, down the road. And I just knew from then, the bug had bitten massively. And yeah, memories like that, I think so the first year I started playing rugby, I got pulled into the KZN Sevens setup. And I remember on for my first game and just being like, oh my gosh, I'm so scared. But as soon as the first kickoff happened, had the ball, step, pass, tackle, things like that. It's this pure like energy inside that you start to crave if you haven't played it. And yeah, just the more I played it, the more intense that got.
Yes, yeah. There's a reason why they called you Amy Colby, eh? Amy, what kind of challenges have you faced, throughout your career?
Yeah, I think as I mentioned before, I knew it was male dominated going into it, and so it was something that didn't upset me to start, but it's certainly an overwhelming journey at times, because something as simple as you pitch up for your provincial meeting and there's 150 male referees and it's you on your ace. Wow. Starting this journey, and there's obviously a lot of people that will talk about it. Does she deserve this appointment? Things like that, because I got fast tracked because I was a previous national player. But it was just important for me that I just kept. I knew what I wanted to do. I knew I wanted to go as far as I can. We're talking about reffing men's internationals. So I knew I had to deal with the club structures. I knew I had to deal with the provincials, the Craven weeks, the varsity cups, and things like that. So, it's really about shutting off to the rest of the world, and going on with my own journey. Which is it sounds quite strange because I'm a very team sport oriented person. I love the energy of a team, but I think when it comes to reffing, you get challenged every Saturday, and this is whether I'm on the field or not, because on a Saturday afternoon when the Boks are playing, I get all the messages about this ref, that call, this, that. It's a constant. You're constantly being watched and being judged, and I think it was just important for me to know that's part of it. You just get on and whatever can get me to the 80 minutes on the field. It doesn't matter, but what I can tell you, what was important for me was to be as fit as the men. I knew getting involved in the men's game, that fitness was going to be key for me. So I just took a couple of extra steps in making sure that I was as fit as the men. We do get tested quite often. So yeah, it's nice to be able to prove that point, because that's the first thing people see there. A woman runs onto the field, can she keep up?
Yeah.
And so that was important for me to prove that straight away, and then just go out and enjoy the 80 minutes.
Yeah. And I mean, you've probably going to be the only person to really experience that. Out of 150 people at the thing, you're the one woman. How important now is it for you to kind of be a leader and a mentor to the other girls in that situation now, and they're able to see your journey now and be like, it is so possible, and to be able to, for you to be able to mentor them? How, like, have you taken that on as something that you really want to do, or like, has it been, what has your approach been to those people in your situation?
So I kind of have two completely different answers to that. And the first one is I really want to establish myself as a referee, just as a rugby referee, as opposed to the female referee or anything like that. I run on the field and they're like, oh, the ref is Amy today. Okay, happy days. So there was that part of me, and that probably suits my personality a bit more, just to fly under the radar.
Yes.
But the more I was involved in matches, and the response I got from people that were at the stadium, the response I got on social media, and just generally people talking to me, I've started to realize quite early on that actually this is quite an important thing that I'm doing.
Yeah.
And it's breaking a lot of barriers. As tough as it is, it's so worth it to be able to see that. It's a look on people's faces. You can't even explain it, but when you see it, you just know it. And when they meet you, so I was even through the Currie Cup season, and there's often a water carrier or, someone like that. It's a woman getting involved in the game, just starting off, and to be able to meet them and the look on their faces, I just realized, wow, like this is making a difference. So I'm gonna go out and make sure that I smash it and keep smashing it. So it's a lot easier for the next people coming through. So yeah, it's a tough journey, but yeah, it's so worth it, just to realize, even in the couple of years that I've been reffing, how many other women have picked up the whistle. And yeah.
And would that say that motivates you? Would you say that motivates you?
Yeah, absolutely. I think rather than it being pressure or anything like that, it's a massive motivation to just keep doing better, keep striding, towards the bigger goals of, the men's game, the Women's World Cup, as much as I can. And if I can keep inspiring others, that would be, it's kind of a nice mutually beneficial relationship where it works for me and it works for them. So yeah, hopefully I can keep doing that.
Amy, the kind of hardships or challenges that you faced over your career, how do you think that has prepared you to fit in so nicely and become there's the ref, not the female ref? How do you think those have helped you prepare to where you are today?
I think it was important for me to, you must stumble, you must make mistakes, you must go through those tough times, you must go through those tough coaches meetings, you must hear the boos of the crowd, and it just, the higher you get, obviously the more the intensity, the more the pressure, but it just makes you a lot more comfortable that you've been through this, you've experienced it, and it's going to be okay. So yeah, I think that's, a lot of people don't get into reffing because they are scared of making mistakes, or a lot of junior refs starting off, that's their first thought. It's like, oh my gosh, what happens if I make a mistake? We all make mistakes. We make mistakes every Saturday. It doesn't matter what level you're at. It's just about, if you have made the mistake, you know the feeling. It happens the next time, you know how to do it the right way. So the best way to learn is by mistake. I think that was quite important for me to learn quite early on, so that now I don't have this intense pressure of being perfect. But obviously just trying to serve the game as best I can, and sometimes we call it a non-decision. Sometimes you let something go, even though according to the law book, it's technically correct, but for the good of the game, we let that one go, and we kind of go from there. So that certainly helped me in that way.
Yeah. And I read that you had gone to Stellenbosch University and got a bursary there. Was that a bursary for rugby?
Yes, I think one of the very few, or if not the only, women's rugby bursary to Stellenbosch.
Cool.
I think I was very lucky to just I think it was in about 2008 or so. I was playing SA7s, SA under 20s, and the SA15s. So it was just an absolutely cracker year of rugby, and kind of with those achievements, was able to just ask some questions at the rugby club, and next minute the university was phoning me saying, "Hey, listen, come study. We want you to play for Marty." So I think I'm the first Springbok woman from Marty's. I was actually there the other day when we had a Springbok woman against Kenya test match.
Yes.
And my name up on the honors board, and I was like, wow, that's really cool.
That's so cool.
I missed my time at varsity, and I had some very understanding lecturers and friends, and I did a lot of traveling with my textbooks. And made the most of the bursary because, I was just very lucky to be able to do rugby and get my degree at the same time.
And what did you study? Was it sports science?
So I did sports science, and then went into my honors in biokinetics. I did my internship there as well, and then went on to do my master's in sports science as well.
Oh, wow. I'm also at Stelli's doing sports science now. So
amazing.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's awesome. You've obviously had to manage your time really well, as you say, like traveling with textbooks, international rugby. Has it always been the DNA of Amy, or is it something you had to learn pretty quickly?
I think I'm being involved at rugby and say, my university degree, you can't afford to drop either. So you learn very quickly that, hey, this is what I want to do. If I want to do well in them, this is how I have to plan. And it is quite tough. I think even these days, like being a professional referee is quite challenging as far as time in general. We spend a lot of time away from home. Even now in COVID, I was gone almost every weekend this year. So, and hopefully some international travel coming up. So, you learn to make the most of it, because we miss a wedding here and there. You miss a braai, you miss birthdays, you miss a lot of things. So, I know that I try to use my time as best I can when I am home. Go spend time with friends, go see them, go catch up on late celebrations and things like that. But that's probably one of the most important things that I would say. And hopefully, whether my high school teachers will ever listen to this, I don't know. But that was something they pushed on me in the beginning, to quite early on, to say, listen, sport is wonderful, but you have to make sure your academics are there. And as soon as I got that message, I was like, well, you know what? I respect that, and I will listen to you because I'm a good listener. And I know I want to take my sport far. I know I want to have that academic background as well. So it's not always easy, and I can't say how I got it perfect. But I make the most of it as much as you can.
Yeah. And then when did you get into reffing? When was the kind of transition from playing to being a bio to being a ref?
Yeah, so around 2012, 2013, I was wrapping up I was doing my masters and things like that. So I kind of retired from playing, and then I'd spent about half a season out of it and missed it so much that I was like, okay, I think I'm going to try reffing. And popped an email to my local union, and they within a couple of hours they were phoning me. I was doing a fitness test the next week. I was doing my law exam the week after that, and I was reffing some under 13 barefoot rugby pretty soon after that. So it was an exciting journey, but I do, and I often say this because it's so true, I regret every chirp that I made towards every referee, because it's so hard on the other side of it, the side, as some people say. But 2014 was when I picked up the whistle, and it was just a way for me to stay engaged with the game. And just it's a new challenge and different way to look at the game.
Yeah. What does an average week look like for you in a game week in terms of preparations?
So it all kind of mushes into one. So, on your, even starting from Sunday, we're reviewing Saturday's game, whether you're the main referee, assistant referee, TMO, you're reviewing, you're talking to the rest of your team. Okay, guys, how do we find this? Where can we go? What can we do better? Monday is the review process for that Saturday game. And then you're really starting with your fitness training for your upcoming Saturday game. So kind of hardcore Monday, Tuesday, all the way through Monday to Thursday. Friday might be a nice easy cycle, and then heading into your game on Saturday. But during the week, we're connecting with coaches, we're connecting with your team, your assistant referees, your TMO, checking in with your manager to discuss the game's DNA, like what do we think we're going to expect, and how do we approach this, and okay, this team does this. You're watching clips, you're watching games, you're making your own playlists so that the morning of the game you just run through a couple of things that are your main focus areas for the game, and things like that. So I think it's an important thing that I'd like to share, that it's not just we wake up on a Saturday, pick up a whistle, run off, and then go on with our normal lives. Like it's a very hardcore review process, and it's a hardcore preparation process to make sure that we do the best we can on a Saturday.
And is there open communication between you and the coaches in the week?
Yes, yeah. So we do like to engage with them just so they know what we're thinking. We know where they're coming from. There are some masterminds out there, and I won't go into too many details, but obviously there's lots of games being played. So we really just keep it as simple as possible, but we do like to open that communication channel. Because at the end of the day, it's a game. It's the product that we're trying to, kind of showcase. So it's really important that all the stakeholders are on the same page.
Amy, thank you so much for the chat. I really appreciate it. It's been such a cool chat to understand your perspective and like a ref's perspective as well. And also just such an inspiring story. So thank you so much. I've really, really enjoyed it. I know you got to get off to a physio appointment. So thanks again. And just enjoy your day. It's such a nice day in Cape Town.
Magic. Thanks, Robbie. Always great to chat. And I hope you enjoy the rest of this wonderful day outside.
Thank you.
Yeah. But thanks again. I really appreciate your time.